All right, guys, what is happening? We are here. Man? What's up, guys? Adolfo, Kyle, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for setting this up, having us on this podcast, and yeah, man, I'm excited to talk about some stuff today. Man. Let's do it.
Let's get it. So
basically, we're having a podcast, man.
Of course, man. Of course, we're gonna share a lot of knowledge. We have a lot of knowledge in this like hiring space. Like, so just a little bit of background. Like we here, we all work together at Synapse. We're a recruiting company. We've been in business like close to 10 years. We all have like over 10 years experience working with hundreds of companies all around the world. And we've been hiring. We've been working through this, economy, through the ups and the downs, and we've seen all cycles of, the good and the bad. And we just have a lot of stories. We have a wealth of experience to share. And we just want to, basically shoot the shit here and, see how it goes, basically. Let's get it, guys. So just a little bit of background here. So, I've been doing this 10 years. Kyle's been doing this 10 plus years. Adolfo joined us last year, but he's in South America. He's been doing this, well over 10 years. We've kind of all have experience in different industries, different parts of the world. So, it's really cool that we can all kind of sit here and, share our insights on kind of like what's going on in today's job market and hiring and stuff like that. So
and that's what it's all about, man. We're in a people business, so we're three different guys from three different parts of the world, and yeah, man. I mean, like for me, I've made a very crazy change in the last year. I went from living in Canada to now living in Mexico, which is, yeah, man. It's a different pace. It's a different lifestyle out here. But
what's it like there, bro?
Let me tell you this, right? So there are so many misconceptions about what like people are like in Mexico, what life is like in Mexico. Yeah. Obviously, just like anywhere else, you have bad areas, you have poverty in almost every place. But man, let me tell you, man, there are very wealthy people out here in the city that I'm in.
What city are you?
I'm in La Paz, and so La Paz is the capital city of Baja California Sur. And so, it's more of a government city because it is the capital. So you have a lot of government people working out here, but there's a lot of money out here nonetheless. There's a lot of Canadians, a lot of Americans, a lot of Mexicans from other parts of Mexico who have moved here for just they want to have a better quality of life. And so La Paz is a very good place for that. It's literally called the Peace. And so, yeah, it's a great city, but 2 hours away.
I thought you were in Puerto Vallarta. Is it close to there?
It's not necessarily that close. I mean, we took a ferry that took almost 12 hours to get from one side to the other. But yeah, man, we started out in Puerto Vallarta, but just 2 hours away from us in La Paz, you've got Cabo. Cabo is the big city where everybody goes to travel. They go to party, but there's a ton of money down there. There are multi millionaires. Not only people
legit.
From,
is it legit millionaires, or is it gang shit?
No, it's legit millionaires. Obviously, you have a lot of foreigners who've come to to live in Cabo as well too, or vacation there. But there is a lot of local Mexicans, who are living there, who are doing extremely well. And so that was one thing that I was, that kind of gave me a shock about Mexico when we got here, is that there's a lot of wealth here, man, but people make it out to be like it's this third world country, man, and it's not. I mean, of course, there's areas, like I said, that are, not as, they're not as great, but that's like anywhere else, you know what I mean? So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah, and I think it's like
your
that. Your
daughter's Mexican, right?
In all Latin America, man.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
Is it?
Yeah. There's wealth everywhere, man. And I think that's the thing that's also shifting even more. Right, we've gotten into this remote digital nomad lifestyle, so people are taking their money to all these other countries, right? They maybe made it big in the U.S. or they made it big in Europe or whatever, or they made it big in some of these other countries, and they're just moving around now too. So they're injecting their money, their wealth into these other places.
Well, dude, we were in a socialist country in Canada, man. Listen, we were both I'll tell you this. we're both from Canada, bro. I was from Vancouver, Kyle's from Toronto, and like I got the fuck out of there like 4 or 5 years ago because I saw the writing on the wall with like Trudeau, like just the way the country was going with like, you know, just the government, like the way everything was going with like the socialist healthcare, the socialist economy when it comes to like, you know, capitalism and not being able to like really thrive. It almost felt like even though you're bordered, you're just there's just a small border between you and the US. It felt like you're so separated from the rest of the world, and like the CBC controls the media, and like
Yep.
just the control that the country has is like, you know, over the people there. It just felt like I've never lived in Russia, but like from everything that I've studied about like socialism and Marxism, all this shit, it felt like I was being limited to like what the country was like, you know, trying to hold me back to being. And I'm like, for me personally, I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like, I need to get out of here. I need to get to, you know, Kyle went to Mexico. I went to LA. Like we have, you know, a lot of friends and family that are still there, but like, it's for people that are like, you know, in their mid to late 20s or like early 20s, early 30s, who are trying to like start a, you know, make a better life and separate themselves from the pack. Canada's not the place to be, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's still opportunity there, but it's much more difficult, and that's why, like, you know, America's always been the land of opportunity. It's a place where like you can come there with nothing, and you know, within 5-10 years you're, you know, multi-millionaire. You're well off. You've created
in Canada,
no, in the US.
You've
created this little like empire. You can do that in the States in 5 to 10 years, and in Canada it takes a lot longer. Adolfo, what's it like where you are? Like how, like what do you see there as far as, you know, how accessible, you know, just growing a business, you know, entrepreneurship, like what do you see over there?
Yeah, sure. Now, first I was going to say, both of you were after the good weather. You to Mexico, you to LA. Yeah, well, you know what? I have been working with US companies, Canadian companies since 2009, 2010. So I'm more familiar with that type of job market than my own market here. But no, it's different. I know it happens like for you that there are people here that has money, but and there's poverty as well. But there's no much as like the industry and everything like it is in the US or Canada. It comes and goes. It's not that very stable as like we have a big city here in Bolivia, Santa Cruz. There's the big companies, local big companies are there, but and there's a lot of movement, but it's nothing compared to what it is like in even Mexico and other countries, even our neighbor countries. But it is kind of like the same culture. Actually, my Spanish is very similar to Mexican Spanish, so we kind of have like the same accent, and but yeah, Latin America is kind of like similar, but every country it's different, and it changes so much. Like in Argentina, like I remember like 20 years ago, it was amazing. They
where
everybody, well, especially in Buenos Aires, like 20 years ago. They had like their local currency was at the same as the US dollar, and then I remember in 2002 everything went down, and it was crazy. And I remember because that year I went there and it was cheap for me, but it wasn't like a year ago. So
do you remember like what the catalyst was for the, you know, for things changing down there? Was it politics or was it?
It was politics, and I think it was like a screen. Like it wasn't as good as it was supposed to be. There was a lot of corruption as well, and it happened the same way in Peru. And because I don't know, it changes. There's Chile. I think that's the only country that is stayed like has the same level of economy for years and years, decades. But then if there's a change in government, sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. So it is.
It's like that in all countries.
Yep.
Yeah, but here is, well, I know that because basically I watch U.S. news every day, like if I was living there, because
Yeah.
I'm
It's
basically
it's
related to that. But
yeah, it's
but
like, but it's like it's so polarizing right now. The new like the U.S. news cycle is crazy, man. Like honestly, I try to stay away from the news these days, but
Me
like
too.
there was a point in time where I'm like, man, I'm just so caught up into what's happening there, because what happens in the US economy has a major impact on everything else. And
Yes.
like there's some big shifts happening. I mean, obviously you guys, we've been talking about going into, and I know we're going crazy off topic where from what
Yeah.
we thought we were going to start with this this podcast here, but
Yeah.
you know, it's good to talk about because like we've been talking about doing, you know, some, you know, outreach and building our footprint out in, you know, Dubai and, you know, UAE and places where there's a big sort of like political social shift, right? You have like this BRICS movement that's coming into play, where these other
yeah,
countries are trying to essentially destabilize the US dollar, right? So you have, you know, Russia, Brazil, I can't remember the other, India, I think as well, but like you have these, you know, these major countries coming together to like create their own sort of like
that
currency,
currency.
man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So it makes me think like what's going to happen with, you know, the US economy, the US job market. You know, are more and more people going to follow this like digital nomad lifestyle and go to other countries? Like what's going to happen? What do you guys
They
think?
have no choice, man. They have no choice, man. This country, that's a country, what is it, $35 trillion in debt, and like
Yeah.
living like the dude. Like, man, I'm not. I love the U.S. Like, I love everything about. I love everything like that this country has to offer. Like the dreams, and you know, my parents were immigrants, and like their like goal in life was basically to get U.S. citizenships for their kids, so their kids can live here. Because I come from a third world country. Like there's so much this country has to offer. But like, dude, when you compare like this, like, dude, like if you travel to like any like, you know, big city in like Europe and stuff like that, like, you know, Paris and like, you know, Vienna, or, you know, Zurich, or all these different, you know, cities in like Western Europe, it's like night and day in terms of like, you know, the architecture, the how clean the streets are, how low the crime is compared to like the big cities here, like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York.
Yeah.
These were like, you know, over time, like we're like cities that were like cherished around the world as like prime destinations for people to want to live in and shit. But like, and it all looks nice and dandy on postcards and from the outside looking in. But like when you actually are living here, man is full of poverty. It's so full of poverty. The streets are full of homeless people, like more so than like a lot of other places. And it's like so beaten down, like the architecture and the streets and stuff. And it's like the economy when it comes to like the jobs, the, you know, the salaries compared to like the cost of living, and like what is available for people, like for working class people, like what is actually available for them is so far from the American dream that it's just like that people here, like you said, like they are like, you know, they're flocking. It's not just people flocking out of California into other states and stuff like that. It's people flocking out of like big cities in the US to like, you know, other parts of the world, like even like the Middle East, and, you know, to South America and to different parts of Europe, or even to Asia and stuff like that. It's just because it's like, it's just what the way the direction that things are going here is just like, it's tough, man. It's tough. But like, obviously, like, you know, there's so much, like, I just have so much hope. I have so much hope being here. Like the reason like I'm here, like I tell you guys this all the time, like the reason I'm here is because I just personally wanted to be in a location, like a centralized location. I know there's a lot of like, you know, poverty here and low income places and stuff, but still, like being in a city like Los Angeles, or being in a city like New York, or being in a city like San Francisco, like being in the core areas, you are surrounded by so much wealth and success, just like you are in the part of Mexico where you are, that like when you step outside every single day, like there's just someone better than you in whatever, you know, way you want to classify it as, like whether they're more successful than you in your field. They have more money than you. They make more money. They're, you know, better at this, better at that. There's so much success here that it feels like it's like a never-ending pursuit for greatness. That's why I want to be here. But what I realized after being here for almost 5 years is that it doesn't matter if you're fucking working at the gas station, and it doesn't matter if you're a Hollywood producer, and it doesn't matter if you're the CEO of, you know, Tesla. Everyone here in a city like Los Angeles is more or less living paycheck to paycheck, because for the life that you are in, it's overpriced. It's so overpriced. So it's crazy here, bro.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. Yeah,
California just in general has some of the highest state taxes in all of the U.S., and that's why you've got this sort of max exodus happening, where, you know, people are going to these income tax-free states, right? So that's the
tax is a massive part of it, and but like even just like the living conditions of every class, lower class, middle class, upper middle class, upper class, whatever, top 2%, whatever class you're in. It's so hard to just be able to survive like here. It's really hard to describe. It's like, because like I feel like it doesn't matter if even if you're living in fucking Bel Air here, you're literally living paycheck to paycheck there, because the cost of the life that you want for a 10-bedroom house is way overpriced. If you're living in a 3-bedroom house here, it's way overpriced and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and it makes me think though, like, you know, would it feel so overpriced if, you know, if the taxes were lower? Like, think if Gavin Newsom decided he was going to cut the state tax in half.
That's crazy.
How much more opportunity would come back to California? Like, I feel like
I was thinking like, I was literally doing the math, and it's like I would have hundreds of thousands more at my disposal if I was living in Nevada.
Yeah.
Just everything when it just business tax, personal income tax, you know, like real estate, sales tax, like when you add it all together, like just and then cost of living on top of that. So like if I literally just took my life to Nevada and lived in Las Vegas, the exact same life that I have here, I would have hundreds of thousands more at my disposal per year.
So why don't you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know yet. It's a good question.
It's something to consider. I mean, because there's more and more traction picking up in these other states, these other cities that, it's much more friendly to entrepreneurs, to investors, to people who are trying to truly live the American dream. I mean, like, obviously now we're seeing this big uptick in like Austin, Texas, right? Especially from a tech hub perspective too. It's like there is a massive amount of growth happening there, and thanks to Elon. Thank you, Elon, for bringing Tesla to Austin. You know what I mean? SpaceX. I think he's got SpaceX there now too, or is it in Houston? I can't remember. Anyways, but
he moved it out of California. Yeah, he moved it
right.
Out of California.
You know what I mean? So it's like there's something to be said about like if the situation isn't the right one, hey, change it, man, because you can at this point. If you don't have kids, nothing's tying you down. Shit, and even
nothing's tying me down.
And even then, man, like I got 2 now, and we said, hey, let's just get out of this crazy city, because there's nothing here for us. There's nothing but chaos, and the government trying to be in everything and trying to tell everybody what they're supposed to do and what they have to do, and like just makes it difficult. So yeah, man.
Yeah, so guys, so I wanted to try to just, I wanted to put this on the Synapse channel. So like I wanted to transition and talk about some hiring, recruiting related stuff. So one kind of, such a general topic, but obviously just open the floor here for us to just, talk about it. Why are we seeing challenges in hiring? Why? What's going on today?
Well, I mean, we just covered a ton of it just now, but it's the lack of money being spent into companies, like VCs investing into companies. Obviously, this is something that you, Cody, I think probably lots of people on our team, obviously we're dealing with, candidates for startup companies that we hire for, and, who've worked with startups or, been in the realm, been in the circle. And it's like, we're seeing that there is this lack of risk taking that's now in the market, right? So where, 4 or 5 years ago, everybody was throwing money at every idea. So seed funded companies, Series A funded companies were popping up left, right, and center. Now it's it's so hard. It's so hard for these companies to raise money. And, maybe it should have been before, but, what are they saying?
Because they're raising money, because what was happening was they're getting money.
Yeah.
But they're not getting a return. These companies were just basically raising funding and not producing. And dude, when we started working with like startups like 10 years ago, literally 11 now, 2013. And like at that point, left, right, and center, this company raises 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, 8 million, all for a fucking idea, basically, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing, just a web page, even, if that. And raising funding like crazy. And that was a great time for us as a business to just work with these companies, help them hire, because they had so much money. We're helping them hire developers. And so many of these companies over the years, they just went out of business because all they had was like, an idea, and they were just focused so much on like product development without focusing on the customer and sales, which it all comes down to. You got to make money, right? You got to have a return on investments. All these companies, not all, but so many companies like in this tech bubble, they just got funding. And then what happened was, now we'll get into how the, economy's changed in global hiring and remote hiring and stuff like that. But like, then there was an arms race literally to hire talent, to hire tech talent. And when people were making 80 grand, developers were making 80 grand in the US and the Bay Area, it went up to 100, 120, 150, 180, 200, 300. The salaries just started going up like crazy for tech talent. And then just companies were just overspending on product development and just running out of funding. And then, okay, maybe they go get a debt financing, get Series B, whatever, keep raising funding, and they ended up nowhere. And so now we're left in this like, in this investment type of landscape where people are like, so like you said, they're so like reluctant to invest into companies unless you have something like really substantial, something like an OpenAI where you have a lot of traction and you have these, products that actually, have customers or are making revenue and stuff like that. And the landscape's changing, man. And now companies are like, okay, now we got to pinch our pennies and stuff. And then ever since that kind of started happening, like during COVID and when, because back then we were working remotely, but like then most of these companies that we were working with, people were still in the office, back in 2019, 2020, remote was still a foreign term. It was still very rare, people working remote. And then, but now, I guess in a good way, I don't want to say the C word, so we don't, we can't say the C word in podcasts, but sorry, okay, you have to edit that part out. But then because of the C thing, basically what happened, it was a blessing in disguise for a lot of different countries and stuff and people in different countries, because it opened the doors to remote hiring. And then what happened was like, places like Bolivia and like in Mexico and South America and Asia and different parts of Europe and stuff, now people started getting, US based jobs, which was great because now companies could hire developers and then have the extra cash left over to spend for other things. But that caused its own ripple effects here in our local economy, because what ended up happening here was that now companies are starting to realize, okay, like in these big cities like that I'm in here, like in Los Angeles or in San Francisco, where cost of living is still sky high, and these companies now, they're hiring remote, and they're like, okay, well, I can hire these people remote for or a third of the cost. I'm not going to pay you what I was paying you before. If you want to work with me, I'm going to pay you less. And that's the problem that's happening here in these big cities, is now people are getting paid a lot less because remote is such a thing. But they still have to pay the same amount to live here. The expenses haven't gone down. If anything, they've only gone up. So now it's fucked up shit for here. And that's why, like you said, people are moving, leaving and stuff like that. So it's just a fucked up cycle. It's for every good, there's a bad. For every opportunity created somewhere else, it's like something has to be pulled away from, somewhere else. And
I think
It's
also there's
crazy.
a tendency of having like smaller teams, leaner teams, like
Yeah,
they, and especially now with AI, even the big companies
yeah,
have a tendency of having smaller teams, like more productive. Like even Mark Zuckerberg says this is the year of productivity, and he fired I don't know how many people. And the same is doing Amazon, Google, and everybody. So
yeah,
it's like we can, and Elon Musk did the same way with Twitter, now X.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that they realized, well, we don't need that much people employed. We can make it work. I was very curious when Elon Musk fired all those people from Twitter. I was like, it's going to work, and well, it's still alive. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
and
still
that's a
alive. Yeah,
tendency, but basically
Well,
he created.
yeah, well, there was kind of a thing with that in the first place, right? Why he came in and just gutted a lot of Twitter, because he had a lot of people there who were just flying under the radar. Like that's what like big companies end up having issues with. They get to a point where there's so many people within the organization, and you can, as let's say an engineer, you write a couple lines of code a day, and your manager doesn't care because code is still getting written across the entire team, right? And so
yeah,
it's like people are flying under the radar. It's always been a thing with some of these big enterprise companies. It's like, yeah, they have a lot of people there that are not necessarily needed at the company, right? And so like I
yeah,
talked to a guy on Friday who is working at TD. TD is one of the bigger, one of the big four banks in Canada. He's a developer there. The guy says, he's got a really cushy job right now. He writes code for an hour a day, and that's all his
Yeah.
tasks are for the entire day. And then he goes and he does other shit. So he's getting
Yeah.
paid probably, like 180K Canadian, which is, pretty good in the Canadian market.
Yeah.
To write an hour's worth of code every single day. So
Crazy.
you have people like that in these enterprises who are not doing full 8-hour days, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's something where like there's definitely a shift with the productivity side of things, but like at the same time you've had a lot of this sort of environment for people to kind of just slack off, right? And everyone's on social media these days. They're like, they want to be like influencers. They want to go travel. You know what I mean? And so like they want to do all these other things, and they don't want to work hard. They want to just chill. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
you're
They want the
seeing.
lifestyle.
I think there's an interesting sort of like change happening though. Like of course
Yeah.
this was a big thing over the last couple of years, but I think that there's hopefully some signs that there's a little bit of change happening there, because I'm hearing like people are going back to some of these more conservative ways of doing things. Like hard work is becoming something that people are starting to like really believe in, but you still have, I think, an issue with the younger generation coming out of school right now, who are like coming out of these universities where you have a lot of these social I want to call it like, I don't even know what the right word is to call it, but you have these really just high intensity social issues that are coming out of these universities, and these are the same kids that are going to tell you, well, they deserve to have a good life versus they should work for the good life that they want,
Like
right? They
earnings.
want
Yeah.
everything. They
Well,
want
it's-
everything handed to them, and this is where that universal basic income thing is coming into play too.
Yeah, dude, it was like, because like in our, I don't know if it was our grandparents or our great grandparents generation, it was a lot easier to value like a direct value of like the work that you did. Like if they're, because like back then more so blue collar jobs, like literally like, okay, you're working 8 to 10 hours a day, you're literally moving this many bricks from here to here, they know how much to pay you because you move this many bricks. You got paid for as many, how many bricks you move from here to here, or you sew together this many things and stuff. And it was, there was a way to like measure your productivity because everything was physical. Now we moved into like a digital age where like, I'm not, trying to, push away a whole industry of, people or type of people who are still like very manual labor and what they do. But like we've moved to a digital age. You know, young kids these days, you're 9, you're 8 years old. You're not looking to get into like a physical. People are now, when they're 8, 9 years old, like they're looking to get into digital lines of work, right?
Yeah,
so
content creators.
Content creators, people want to be influencers and whatever the case is, and like, you know, people are moving to digital and stuff like that, and have already. This is the way of the world. You know, we have to accept it, embrace it, that it is what it is. And so we just have to like, and then the thing is it's not just it's this generation. Like, there's always the last generation complains about the new generation. That's how our parents say shit about us. We say shit about our kids. They're going to say shit about their kids. It's always like that. We're always going to complain about the new generation because the way they think and do things is different than us. Whether it's good or bad, it's different. We're there to guide and share them our experiences, but they're dealing with a landscape that's different than what we came up with. So like, yes, these people are lazy and stuff like that. And that I've been hearing this for years. Oh, the new generation is lazy, the new generation. And yeah, I mean, I've experienced it firsthand.
I don't necessarily think that they're, and I know I said this too, but I don't necessarily think that they're lazy. It's
exactly, that's what I was trying to say.
It's a mischaracterization. Like, they still, they want to work hard on you know, digital businesses, which is, you know, it's great, but like you have to think, you know, what's the value that they're providing out in the world, right? Like, and I think that this is the thing that most people are concerned with. It's like, are they going to be providing any real value to the world, to this, you know, to society, right? And everyone already knows that social media, for the most part, is like, you know, it is a especially in the Western world, it is a very like detrimental thing to like our society, our development, right? So like, even for instance, like in TikTok, you have TikTok in the US and, you know, Canada or whatever, it promotes like dances and, you know, like stupid shit. But where TikTok originated from in Asia, it's like, they promote, you know, science and, you know, achievements and,
exactly,
and things like that. For
that's
kids,
what
it's
they
a
are
completely different thing. Yeah, and so what these kids are consuming over here, and, you know, what they're, and, you know, encouraged to promote is like, just, unfortunately, it's nonsense. And so you have to think, okay, well, where's the world going, or at least the Western world, where is it going based on, you know, who's coming into adulthood in the next?
Well, what's happening? What's happening?
Years.
What I'm seeing firsthand is this. Employers, okay, they have certain expectations. Their expectations are certain deliverables are met, you know, hard work, you know, prioritization of work over, you know, other stuff, like, you know, chilling with your friends and, you know, partying and fucking off. Like, employers expect their employees to prioritize their work and to deliver for their companies. That's why they're paying them their hard-earned cash, right? But what we're seeing now is that the expectations are there from the employers, or from the employees. The output is just not there. They're not willing to put in that, you know, I don't know if it's necessarily the hours of work required, or it's like the level of work or the amount of energy, like, you know. So there's a big mismatch right now between like what people are willing to do and what companies are expecting. And like, that's what I was talking about to you guys, like, you know, before we hopped on the pod, was like, look, there's so much people out there with talent, whether it's skills they've gained on their own through life experience, through college, through degrees, through work, whatever. There's so many fucking jobs out there. There's tons. Go on Google jobs, go on Indeed, LinkedIn. There's so many jobs. But like, companies are still having such a hard time hiring, and people are still having such a hard time finding jobs. And like, the main reason is just like, at least this is what I think, is just that there's such a disconnect between the expectations of the company and the output the person is supposed to do. And now you're seeing people before, dude, in our parents or maybe our grandparents' generation, you know, people worked the same fucking job 20 years. Obviously, we're in a different world now, right? But like, when I in my 20s, average life cycle at a job was maybe 1.5 years, 2 years. Now, average life cycle in a job is like 2-3 months. People are just going in and out of jobs like that. And whether it's because they quit, because they don't want to work hard, they can't, you know, they're not trying to match the demand of what their employers are saying, or whether they're getting fired more easily than ever. The average life expectancy of like employees at these jobs and stuff, at most jobs and stuff, is just like shrinking. And I don't see a way out right now. I just see like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if we're gonna have to come to. I don't know if the answer is paying people more. I don't know if the answer is like having like investment to technology where we're literally micromanaging everything people do and make sure they actually have to work in the confines of those hours. Like, you know, I don't know the answer, but what I do know is that we're seeing firsthand just like such a hard time for companies to grow. And like, no, I'm not just saying grow in terms of headcount, but like just grow in a linear direction with like the right people, because it's just not working. It's not working. We got to figure this out. And by figure this out, it's not just us figuring this out. It's just the world, like, you know, as we're going through this like digital age shift, like we all need to kind of, you know, have this like in the back of our mind, like, you know, how are we gonna thrive? How are we gonna succeed? How are people gonna be happy in jobs? How are people, bro? When we were like our parents and stuff like that, or grandparents, I don't know how old people are watching this and shit, but like it was so easy back in the day to like, you know, get out of school, get your first job, 2 years after, you know, get a mortgage on a house, live a life like this, you know, save up, retire at a certain age. It's impossible these days. The world has changed so much that like, man, it's so hard to, you know, follow that. There's no path really for anyone to follow right now. So I'm just like, I'm fucking 33. I'm still trying to figure shit out myself. You know, I'm still trying to figure shit out myself. And I'm just kind of like, man, what do we do? Because from my side as like an employer, I'm just like, fuck, man. It's like, how do we even, I'm having such a hard time always trying to hire people, because like, you know, we're hiring people and I have all these expectations from them. I'm like, damn, I want to move to Bel Air. I want to live this luxurious life. I want to set up my kids, like when I have them, you know, to have a better life than I do. I want to live this life. And I'm like, man, I can't find anyone else. I can't find people that want to live that life too. So like, I'm just like, you know, ending up hiring people that just are so content with what they have. And it's almost impossible to push them out of that. And I can't be, and you know, for me personally, like shit, man, as an employer, you know, as a manager or whatever, you can't be a Tony Robbins every fucking day. You can't every single day try to motivate people to work beyond what they've bred into become. Like, you know, they either have it or they don't. And these days, most people just don't have it. At least they're not willing to give it to you. I don't know if they're willing to put that energy into their partner or into their kids or into some other shit that they're doing in their lives. But like, they're definitely not willing to do it for their jobs these days. And if those people, if you are an employer and you find someone who is willing to do that for you, then you should do everything in your fucking power to keep them. Like, because it's so rare. It's so rare these days, man. And we go through so many interviews, man. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say there's some hope. There's some hope out in the market, man. I mean, you know,
I would hope so.
I mean, looking at you know, I was just kind of going back to that point about you know, there not being enough growth, and I think you know, maybe we haven't checked in on the data recently, but it seems like there's been some growth in the U.S. economy. There's 275,000 jobs that were added just in February alone, and then then this is from Reuters, by the way. I'm gonna link this article afterwards, but there has been a drop in unemployment claims. So there's some things happening. There's some things brewing. I think we need to have some more optimism going forward. Obviously, we've seen some really bad times, especially with like the massive tech layoffs and stuff like that. And you know, like, as we were talking about earlier, the you know, the lack of money coming in from VCs, but I think there's signs of things going in a positive direction. And you know what I'm actually really excited about too is the blockchain market. You know, that's a market that we were in heavily from 2015 till like even just recently. But you know, we had a really good stretch between 2015 to like 2018, 2019, and you know, Bitcoin now hitting all-time highs, and this Bitcoin ETF, like there's some promise in the blockchain space, and I think we should be looking at that arena again as a potential growth market, growth catalyst for us as well too.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's gonna be more stable this time because of well, at first maybe it was a bubble, but now the companies that are stayed in, that are in blockchain, they're more stable, and there's more regulations and everything.
Yeah, the thing is that the thing with like, you know, I've been in and out of crypto blockchain, like Kyle said, like since 2015. I made a lot of money with it. I lost a lot of money with it. I've seen the ups, I've seen the downs. The common theme though is like there's always like this build up, where the masses now, you know, then they start to follow it. It's on mainstream news. The laggards and our parents and our older cousins and friends then start investing into it, and everything starts building up, and then that bubble like always seems to burst, and like the main culprit for it is there's a few things. One is the behind the scenes shit that we don't see, the government intervention, the government prevention from it ever, you know, materializing into like a legitimate actual like form of like currency has been like a huge blocker.
It never will be though. I don't think
that's the top. Yeah, exactly.
But
like it's yeah. Go ahead.
You know, I've spoken to, you know, some people who are in the space. You know, people who've actually even worked at Coinbase and stuff like that, and you know, they see Bitcoin as still being an asset class nonetheless. That, you know,
of course
could be a vehicle for investors to, you know, to leverage. It's, you know, got a lot of volatility, and that's what still makes it an attractive asset class just in general. And so it doesn't, I don't think it doesn't ever have to be you know, a currency at this point. I think it's just created this new sort of like area for people to invest their money, make money on. And while the SEC is going to create as much chaos there, I think there's reasons for it, because the more chaos they create in it, the more volatility happens within, you know, within these assets in the first place. And it's so I think that they do it for that specific reason, because a lot of these companies, for instance, like what was it, the CEO of like JP Morgan was like, don't ever buy Bitcoin, it's like, it's a scam, it's a fraud or whatever. He said that shit, and then went and bought, and then the company went and bought like, I don't know, an absurd amount of Bitcoin after that, when it when it dipped like 25%. So it's like, man, you know, I think that there's, if we pay attention to those market trends and we figure out, okay, like what's being said, why is it being said, is there a reason that, you know, they're going to, let's say something that's going to cause something to dip, and is it going to pop back up again? Like everything, like real estate, for instance. Like real estate has always had, you know, it's crazy ups and downs. And did you guys see that thing that just happened? I think it was literally just last week, where they're now changing the commission structures for real estate agents all across the state. So where real estate agents could, you know, make like up to 6% commission, they're now getting cut in half to like 3%. So this is potentially a really big thing, right? So where certain agents weren't making their commission, they weren't selling homes because, you know, the homeowner has to factor in, well, I got to now pay this agent 6%. Right now it's only 3%. So are they going to be more likely to sell more homes? Probably. So we might see a lot more change happening there too, which affects the overall economy.
Yeah, I wanna save some of these topics for our next episodes, and I'm like, there's so many things, like, you know, we can talk about, like the applications of blockchain these days, like, you know, how legitimate it is, the applications of AI, how it affects the job economy, how it affects our lives, how it affects, like, you know, our children's lives. There's so many things we can talk about, but let's wrap it there, guys. It's been a nice episode, and until next time, see you guys later.
All right, man. Take care. Peace.
See you guys.
See you guys.